welcome back to another day of transformations. Today we're going to talk about rotating figures, and we all know that a rotation is basically turning something. And what happens here is that it moves every point of a pre-image through a specified angle and direction about a fixed point. So for example, we could start off with a point A, and then we would rotate it about point C, and that angle we call it as an angle of rotation. So like, how far are we going to rotate? That would be the angle of rotation, and the center of rotation is C. So center of rotation would be point C. And the angle of rotation in this example would be 180 degrees, etc., right? And so then our A prime would be the point that was transformed. And I just want to point out this word here that says maps. When we say that something has been mapped, it basically is another word for transformed. It has been transformed, it has been moved from one point to the other, it has been mapped. Now, we can rotate in either clockwise or counterclockwise. I would like to point out that we must assume that all rotations are counterclockwise unless stated otherwise. And remember, counterclockwise is basically where we're rotating towards the left. Clockwise means we are rotating towards the right. So let's do some examples here. Before we can do some examples, we have to understand the rules. So here are some very important common rotations, and make sure you guys take a look at these rules. So we could rotate, many times they ask us to rotate 90 degrees, and so that would be the rule. We would take each coordinate point and we would flip the coordinates and change the sign for y. For the 180 degree rotation, we would not flip the coordinates, but we would change the sign of both the x and the y coordinates. For a 270 degree rotation, you can look at the pictures to know how those rotations would look. We would flip the coordinates x and y and change the sign for x. So here in this study tip, it mentions here that if you are given a negative sign, like a negative 90 degree rotation, that is an indicator that they want you to go clockwise. So that's a rotation of about the origin, clockwise. All right, so just keep in mind that if they give you a negative, that means you would have to rotate clockwise. All right, so let's do an example. Triangle PQR has vertices, and that tells us where they are. They want us to graph the triangle and its image after a rotation. And what is the rotation? That's the key. 90 degrees about the origin. It doesn't have a negative, so we know we're going to go counterclockwise. So thinking back at our rules, we're going to go ahead and write our rule down, and I'm going to transform every point using the rules. So what was our rule for 90 degree rotation? Basically, you take the original points, and this arrow is what we use to refer to the transformation or mapping. So we're going to take each point, we're going to map it, and after the transformation, we're going to flip our coordinates, and we're going to change the sign for y. So let's start with the point P. So point P was at 1, 1. After the transformation, we've got to flip the coordinates, becomes P prime. The points are the same, so it doesn't really look like I flipped them, but let's, imagine that we did. And in addition, we've got to change the sign of our y value. So there I put a negative. All right, let's do Q. Okay, so now that I have all of my transformations and all my prime numbers, they also want us to graph this, and so we can go ahead and graph this using Desmos. So here I have my pre-image this is the triangle. This is how it would look. So now I'm going to plot the points for my image and see how it looks. So now I have, as you can see, after the rotation, 90-degree rotation, in green, I have my triangle, the image after that rotation. Now, another thing that you can also do to help you with rotations, if Desmos is kind of confusing or you prefer, you can also rotate your paper that you're working on rotations. You can actually physically rotate your paper, and let's say that you have to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. You'll rotate your paper 90 degrees counterclockwise and then plot the same exact points, the original ones, and it will transform the picture for you. So I hope this helps.